If you missed my showcase from the end of January, I talked about how Hungry Horrors is going to be this month's roguelike of the month. If you don't know what that is, I'm basically focusing on one roguelike per month for the entirety of 2026, and Hungry Horrors is going to be one of the games that I'm focusing on for the month of February. So let's talk a little bit about it. I'm about 4 to 5 hours in so far. Just have some thoughts about it so far, but real quick, Hungry Horrors is a really cool early access pixelated roguelike where you're actually not even fighting the monsters that you're engaging with. You're cooking meals for them to get down their hunger meter in order to move on and progress within all their biomes. Clumsy Bear Studio is actually a 2-person team, and this is actually their first game that released early on in January. So in early access, so far I'm enjoying a lot of the content that this game has to offer. You may be wondering what's the actual gameplay. If you've seen some of the gameplay elements, if you've seen some of the trailers for this game, what exactly are you doing? So like I said, you're not actually fighting any of the monsters. Essentially, the objective is to fill up the monster's hunger bar by using the various dish cards or recipe cards to get down the hunger meter in order to progress from each biome, to go from each cave to the next cave and to beat a boss, rinse and repeat, and then you die in between to order to get more powerful recipes and dish cards to order to increase the combos of those hunger meters. So what you do is you have a variety of different cards or different recipes with different flavor profiles like salty, sweet, bitter, savory, and sour, and you use those to kind of build out your deck. So one of the things that's very helpful in the tutorial of this game, it essentially says, hey, just pick one of everything if you're not sure of what flavor combinations to pick. And what's interesting is that also each dish card has a different perk associated with it. A card will give you the ability to extend the combo, and I'll talk about those in a second. There'll also be some enhancements to the card that if you feed it to the monster, the card after won't be hated or disliked. When you're actually engaged in the battle, engaged in the fight, you are trying to prevent the monster from either reducing your stamina as they're moving closer to you, or actually coming all the way towards you and then engaging in some hilarious death animations. Maybe I'll splice those in just to see what those actually look like. But as you do that, you're chaining recipes together. So you may throw an enemy a salty and then they may crave a sweet. So you have to find something sweet to get them, and then they may crave something sour. So you're kind of having to stack all these recipes, and you see that in the top right hand corner as each recipe stacks. As you're satisfying the cravings of the hunger of each monster, you get point values associated with it, and then you kind of help chain them all together to give you like some big boosts. So think Balatro or any other card-based game involving like large point values. We're trying to basically just stack numbers on top of each other to get the best possible combinations. Now, there will be some scenarios where you don't have the exact card, but you can discard, or you can use things like potions to change the actual flavor profile of what the monster is going to be craving. So you can do that there. But be in mind, when you discard, you have a certain number of discards that you have, and then you're actually going to pull from your health or from your stamina to order to discard. And then you have a certain amount of cards that you have, and they go in your discard pile and they reshuffle, and you go from your draw pile. And you can actually see all the cards that will be in your draw pile to kind of see what's coming, and that's kind of playing your strategies that way. And once you fill up the hunger meter, that monster is full, he is vanquished, he's full, he's been satisfied by all of their hunger, and you move on to the next cave by getting all the various upgrades, things like more recipe dishes. You get things like seasonings that already provide some enhancements to the already existing recipe cards. You also get things like silver ingredients, and so silver ingredients are things that you use in order to build the recipes. So when you start your run, you have a certain amount of ingredients. You have like milk and butter and bread, and then you eventually get things like fish and meat and vegetables, and you get those silver ingredients to add back into your castle as you progress throughout each run. So that's sort of the, I guess, the more meta progression or some of the permanent upgrades. You also collect scrolls that also provide you with more permanent upgrades, like providing a seasoning station in this particular area, or giving you more stamina as you enter in a room, or giving you things like coins that you can use on vendors to buy things like potions, buy more recipe cards, more seasonings, all the things that you will find in games like this where you're trying to build out the best deck possible. possible. And so you go forth throughout each cave. There's about 10 caves in each biome, and then you reach a boss, and they have different buffs and debuffs depending on the type of enemy. And then you have these big, giant, massive creatures. Like the first boss you encounter is actually Grendel from folklore, from Beowulf folklore, and then you'll have a few more bosses therein as you go forward for each biome. So yeah, that's essentially the gameplay. That's the kind of the loop that you go on. I'm enjoying the actual content of this game, even in its early access state. Like I said, this released just a few weeks ago in early access, and so there's more content planned for the future, like more biomes, more recipes, more monsters. But so far, I'm enjoying the content so far. It's actually pretty easy to get into because there's a lot of text, there's a lot of things to read, there's a lot of flavor profiles, trying to figure out the best combination, trying to figure out the best things to remember. You can season a dish to be your starter, so it's something that will always show up on your first hand. You kind of use to kind of set up the combos to give you the best points possible. So that's been pretty helpful for me, kind of understanding what flavor profile leads to the next. Like, okay, so this dish is going to be salty, which is going to lead to a sweet, which is going to lead to a sour. So I think the best strategy is always making sure that you have at least one different flavor profile per deck or per hand. So I usually just go with all different flavor profiles. You never know what the monster is going to be craving at a certain amount of time. Also, they can either like or dislike or hate or love. So if a monster likes a certain dish, that'll be fine. If they love it, they provide you with even more bonuses. If it dislikes, it gives you points, but it also doesn't give you a bonus afterwards, so it counts as 0 bonus. And if they hate it, they literally spit out everything on the floor. It basically resets the entire combo, and it kind of throws off the entire run, especially if you're getting to some of these higher health bars or higher hunger bars where you're having to satisfy like maybe 500 or even 800 hunger points. So it's kind of crazy if you get to a point where you are having to feed the monster and they hate it and they spit everything out, and it kind of ruins the run. It happened to me on a boss pretty recently. But also, you don't really know what the monster will like, dislike, or hate on the outset, so you kind of have to guess. Once you feed it to the monster, it will tell you that this monster likes this or hates this or loves this, and then it'll show up on the card later on, so you know, and you can plan around that. So even if you have like one sweet dish, they may not like this sweet dish, but they like this sweet dish or this salty dish versus this salty dish. So yeah, there's a lot of combination, a lot of content, a lot of things to explore, a lot of things to strategize around. So that's what I'm liking so far. I do like the humor provided within this game, and like the description says, it's based off of British and Irish folklore. So I've recognized some things, but again, I'm not British or Irish, so I'm not familiar with everything, but I kind of recognize some of the dishes that you see within British or Irish folklore, like fish and chips and haggis and mushy peas and things like that. So it's just fun to explore all the different monsters and all different recipes. There's some things that I think need improvement, and I'm sure they will probably improve on that as we go forward in this early access period. It just needs more variety of music. I feel like the music is exactly the same throughout every single biome. There's no variety of music. It's kind of just one track that loops throughout the entirety of the game. So whoever's composing music, I hope that you maybe add more music, add a little bit more variety, because as I was going through all of my runs, and like I said, I'm about 4 to 5 hours in, I really would love there to be more music, more variety, more of that passion of the music laid in there, and kind of exploring more, because it's kind of getting a little bit boring so far. And again, this is early access, so there's more content on the way. So again, these are just things that I'm finding so far in the game that I wish could be more fleshed out, hopefully more fleshed out as we get closer and closer as each update progresses. I do wish this was a little bit more optimized in controller. This seems to be more fitting for mouse and keyboard. Yes, you can play this on controller, but I feel like the optimization is not fully there. I can play this on the Steam Deck, but just sometimes it can be a little bit clunky, and using the controller to select cards or trying to figure out what buffs are applied or what debuffs are applied, I kind of found that I was having to use the mouse or the touch screen and the controller in conjunction with this itself. So hopefully there'll be a little bit more optimization. Maybe we get more verification on the Steam Deck settings later on as we progress within this early access period. So yeah, there's more to be had. There's more to be had. I'm definitely going to play more. Like I said, this is the roguelike of the month. So for the entirety of the month of February, I am playing Hungry Horrors. So I probably may dig in more to the gameplay, may show you some actual gameplay, me showing you what that looks like in the next video coming up. So let me know if you're playing Hungry Horrors down in the comments below. If you want to know more about it, if you want to see some more gameplay, I will be back with later videos on more content on the way. with Hungry Horrors. If you want to see it featured on the entire January showcase, I will pop that out as well. But so far, I am liking Hungry Horrors. Can't wait to see more. And if you want to see more videos from me, they will pop up as well. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Chike, and I will see you on the next one. Peace out.